Imagine a land shrouded in mist, where jagged peaks rise like silent sentinels, and hidden valleys cradle secrets untouched by time. This is Shambhala, or at least, this is how it has been whispered across centuries of folklore, Buddhist texts, and the fevered imagination of explorers. To some, it is merely a legend, a utopian kingdom described in ancient manuscripts, a place where wisdom and power converge beyond the reach of the ordinary world. To others, it is a tantalizing possibility, a lost civilization whose traces may linger in the shadows of our maps, awaiting discovery. From the earliest accounts, Shambhala is depicted as a paradise hidden from the eyes of ordinary humans. The very name evokes mystery, echoing through Tibetan scriptures and secretive prophecies, hinting at a realm that exists between the seen and the unseen. Scholars have debated its existence for centuries. Some insist it is purely symbolic, a spiritual allegory of enlightenment and inner journey. Others believe that somewhere in the vast, untamed landscapes of Central Asia, the remnants of Shambhala, its cities, temples, and sacred knowledge, may still lie dormant, preserved by time and isolation. Modern adventurers and historians have attempted to reconcile these myths with geography. Expeditions have trekked through the snowbound ranges of the Himalayas, scouring maps and studying ancient texts for clues. Every rock formation, every secluded valley, is examined through the lens of possibility. Yet, the closer explorers get to the idea of finding Shambhala, the more the legend seems to slip through their fingers, as though the very land itself resists discovery. The tension between science and myth forms the core of this mystery. Archaeologists rely on tangible evidence, artifacts, ruins, inscriptions, but such proof remains elusive. Meanwhile, the oral histories, esoteric teachings, and cryptic writings insist that Shambhala is real, yet not in a way that aligns neatly with our conventional understanding of reality. Is it a lost kingdom, a hidden civilization, or something that exists simultaneously in our physical world and the realm of consciousness? As this journey begins, the audience is invited to step into that liminal space where skepticism meets wonder. Questions emerge: can legends contain truth? Are maps and satellites the only way to uncover lost worlds? Or does the act of seeking itself reveal deeper layers of reality that conventional science may never touch? In this section, the stage is set. Shadows of mountains, veiled cities, and ancient prophecies create a cinematic backdrop. Viewers are drawn into a world where each legend might conceal a fragment of truth, and where the boundary between reality and myth is tantalizingly thin. From here, the journey will move deeper, exploring artifacts, encounters, and the evidence that blurs the line between historical fact and the mythic imagination. The story of Shambhala begins not in the dusty corridors of modern libraries, but in the sacred, whispered chants of Tibetan monks and the intricate manuscripts of ancient Hindu sages. Centuries before the world had modern maps or satellite imagery, these texts spoke of a hidden kingdom, a land of enlightenment, immense wealth, and spiritual perfection. The earliest references appear in the Kalachakra Tantra, a Tibetan Buddhist scripture, where Shambhala is described as a mystical kingdom ruled by enlightened kings, a place untouched by the chaos and corruption of the outside world. In Hindu texts, it appears as a land of peace, a celestial realm that manifests only for the righteous. But was it a real place, or merely a metaphor for spiritual awakening? Scholars have long debated this question, examining how oral traditions might have preserved echoes of real kingdoms lost to time. Travelers and pilgrims who ventured into the high Himalayan passes often spoke of hidden valleys, verdant landscapes, and mysterious communities, descriptions that bore a striking resemblance to Shambhala's mythical portrayal. These tales blurred the line between fact and myth, leaving readers and explorers caught between belief and skepticism. Even the names themselves reveal layers of meaning. Shambhala translates roughly to place of peace, a subtle reminder that the legend may represent a state of mind as much as a physical location. Yet, historical analysis suggests that the myth could have roots in forgotten Central Asian kingdoms or ancient trade routes, which flourished before fading into obscurity. The idea of an untouched, sacred land resonated across cultures, feeding a narrative that would endure for centuries. By the Middle Ages, Shambhala had captured the imagination of adventurers and mystics alike. European explorers, often guided by fragmentary texts and second-hand accounts from Tibetan monks, set out on perilous journeys across treacherous mountain ranges. Some claimed to glimpse secret valleys, others returned with tales of hostile tribes, natural barriers, or vanishing pathways. Every expedition yielded fragments of evidence but never conclusive proof, adding to the aura of mystery. What makes the legend enduring is the tension between its spiritual significance and the tantalizing possibility of a lost kingdom hidden from the world. Was Shambhala a utopian dream, a moral allegory, or a forgotten empire waiting to be rediscovered? This question, suspended in the interplay of myth and history, sets the stage for the centuries of exploration, obsession, and speculation that would follow, a quest that continues to captivate the curious and the daring even today. We dive deep into the landscapes where Shambhala is said to exist, or more broadly, where lost civilizations might hide. The focus is on exploring how geography itself becomes both a concealment and a clue. This section juxtaposes the measurable, scientific world with the intangible, mystical dimensions that legends insist upon. Expansion. Imagine standing at the edge of the Himalayas, where jagged peaks pierce the sky and deep valleys disappear into mist. Ancient texts speak of hidden valleys, cloaked in clouds and inaccessible by ordinary paths, where the lost kingdom of Shambhala might endure untouched by time. Satellite imagery now allows us to see these terrains from above, revealing river courses, mountain ridges, and seemingly impossible plateaus, paths that could have guided or protected travelers for centuries. Yet, even with these tools, some formations resist easy mapping, as if nature itself conspires to keep secrets buried. The mystery deepens when comparing these modern methods with ancient cartography. Medieval maps, often dismissed as fanciful, sometimes indicate mountains, rivers, or forests that modern explorers later find surprisingly accurate, though rendered in symbolic or mythic forms. Celestial alignments, rivers flowing parallel to star paths, valleys shadowed by constellations, suggest that the ancients may have encoded knowledge of hidden trails in the very fabric of the landscape. Was this coincidence, or a deliberate attempt to preserve a secret only the worthy could find? The section also explores the psychology of hidden spaces. Human fascination with inaccessible regions, dense forests, high mountain passes, and desert caves, reflects a timeless tension between fear and curiosity. Why do we imagine lost civilizations in the hardest-to-reach places? Is it because isolation preserves purity, untouched by human interference, or because we project our desire for mystery onto the terrain itself? Scientific expeditions often report the uncanny, anomalies in terrain, echoes of long-abandoned paths, or stone formations that suggest ancient human activity. Yet, none of this fully confirms the legends, leaving room for myth to persist. As drone footage and LIDAR scans reveal hidden terraces, pathways, or collapsed structures, we face a paradox. Technology uncovers more than ever, but the enigma of Shambhala, or any hidden civilization, remains intact, teasing our imagination with glimpses rather than answers. Finally, the section hints at transitions into the next chapter, artifacts and symbols that these hidden trails might conceal, bridging the landscape with the tangible relics of human history and the whispers of legend. The audience is left suspended between awe at natural beauty, intrigue at encoded knowledge, and the haunting question, what remains hidden, not just in mountains, but in our understanding of the world itself? The story of Shambhala is not written in plain letters for the casual reader. It lurks in the margins of ancient manuscripts, encoded in cryptic passages and veiled allegories that scholars and mystics alike have struggled to interpret. Tibetan chronicles speak of a hidden kingdom, a sanctuary of wisdom and enlightenment, whose existence seems more legend than geography. Yet, these texts are not merely fantastical, they offer precise descriptions of landscapes, celestial movements, and societal structures that suggest either a lost history or a symbolic roadmap to transcendence. Sanskrit scriptures, some dating back over a millennium, are equally enigmatic. They mention a kingdom of extraordinary sages, a civilization whose knowledge of astronomy, medicine, and spiritual practice surpasses anything known in the ancient world. Some passages are clear enough to suggest a physical city, while others dissolve into allegory, emphasizing moral and spiritual ascension. Scholars argue endlessly. are these metaphors for the human journey, or coded evidence of a civilization hidden in the remote folds of the Himalayas? Chinese sources add another layer of intrigue. Buddhist monks traveling through Central Asia recorded legends of a mystical kingdom where enlightened rulers governed in harmony, untouched by war or suffering. Some texts describe paths through treacherous mountains, guarded by natural and supernatural forces, suggesting that the kingdom was protected not just by geography but by ritual and secrecy. The tension between fact and myth becomes most apparent when examining the recurring motif of advanced knowledge. Astronomy is one of the most striking examples. Texts describe the movement of stars with astonishing precision, hinting that Shambhala's inhabitants may have mapped the heavens centuries before similar observations appeared in other civilizations. Medicine, too, is frequently mentioned. Herbal remedies and healing practices that modern science can only partially explain are attributed to these sages, sparking debates over whether these are metaphors for spiritual purification or real, lost technologies. The allure of these texts lies in their contradictions. Academics caution against literal interpretations, warning that allegory and legend often mask political or spiritual lessons. Yet, mystics insist that the texts are literal, containing hidden instructions or maps that could lead to Shambhala's lost gates. This duality, the constant tension between skepticism and wonder, keeps explorers, historians, and dreamers captivated even today. By the end of this section, viewers are left questioning the very nature of knowledge. Are these manuscripts merely symbolic stories, or are they fragments of a hidden history waiting to be uncovered? The next journey will take us beyond the pages, into landscapes and ruins where myth and reality collide, hinting at truths that have remained concealed for centuries. By the late 1800s, the allure of Shambhala had shifted from religious texts and whispered legends to the maps and journals of ambitious explorers. In Europe and America, societies obsessed with mystical geography began funding expeditions into the Tibetan plateau, lured by tales of a city hidden from the eyes of ordinary men. One of the earliest documented attempts was led by Nikolai Przhevalsky, a Russian geographer who meticulously mapped regions of Central Asia. Though his journeys never revealed the city, his reports of strange, isolated monasteries and locals speaking of a hidden kingdom hinted that something extraordinary might exist beyond the familiar horizon. As the 20th century dawned, technological advances, photography, airplanes, and even early radio communications, offered new hope. Explorers like Alexandre David Niel, a French-Belgian scholar, trekked deep into forbidden regions of Tibet, often at great personal risk. Her journals describe encounters with hermit monks, cryptic symbols carved into cliffs, and fleeting glimpses of landscapes so surreal they seemed almost otherworldly. At times, she records moments where guides refused to proceed further, claiming the path ahead was not for human eyes. These tantalizing anecdotes painted a portrait of Shambhala not just as a physical city, but as a liminal space where ordinary perception falters. Yet, for every claim of discovery, there were near misses and inexplicable setbacks. Flights over the Tibetan plateau were often shrouded in sudden storms that no meteorologist could predict. Expeditions reported landmarks that vanished when approached, footprints that led nowhere, and echoes of chanting without any visible source. One particularly striking diary entry recounts a group that followed a series of luminous riverbeds into the mountains, only to find the streams dried up and the landscape transformed by the next morning, as though it had never existed. These incidents, though anecdotal, created a psychological tension. Shambhala was either a mirage or a realm fiercely guarding its secrets. Contrasting with the mythic aura, modern tools, satellite imagery and global positioning systems, offered a sense of certainty, yet even these failed to uncover definitive evidence. Some researchers began to suspect Shambhala might exist more as a metaphysical or spiritual locus than a physical city, reinforcing the divide between tangible exploration and mystical legend. The tension between modern science and the enduring mystery became part of the allure. Every map, every photograph, every expedition that came close, yet fell short, added layers to the myth. By examining these near misses, one begins to appreciate Shambhala's power not just as a lost city, but as an enduring challenge to human perception. Each modern expedition, regardless of outcome, amplifies the suspense, demonstrating that some mysteries resist discovery, even when all the tools of science are brought to bear. The allure lies precisely in the chase, the tantalizing, almost, and the subtle suggestion that perhaps, just perhaps, Shambhala still waits to reveal itself, but only to those ready to question the limits of reality itself. This section delves into the tantalizing possibility that the lost city's secrets were never truly lost, they were deliberately hidden in plain sight. Across Tibet, India, and Mongolia, ancient architecture, sacred art, and religious symbols carry subtle messages that only those attuned to their meaning could interpret. The viewer is guided through the intricate carvings of Himalayan temples, where mandalas and reliefs hint at astronomical alignments, and statues that seem to encode maps of hidden valleys or sacred mountains. The narrative contrasts scholarly interpretations with local legends, highlighting where scientific reasoning ends and myth begins. As the story unfolds, we explore how travelers and pilgrims may have unknowingly followed markers left by those who sought to preserve knowledge from the uninitiated. Monasteries, shrines, and even ancient manuscripts appear ordinary at first glance, but when examined closely, reveal patterns that repeat across centuries and cultures. Could these repetitions be coincidence or deliberate markers designed to guide seekers to Shambhala's legacy? The audience is encouraged to question the boundaries between fact and legend, as the script draws suspense from the idea that every symbol, every curve of stone, may have a hidden purpose. The section also introduces the psychological intrigue of secret knowledge, the human fascination with hidden messages, puzzles, and codes. Viewers are prompted to imagine themselves piecing together these clues, creating a sense of active participation. Through cinematic storytelling, the narrative paints a vivid picture of travelers tracing faint inscriptions along mountain paths or decoding seemingly mundane artifacts that suddenly take on profound significance. Tension builds as we suggest that even modern science may have overlooked the subtleties of these signs, leaving a tantalizing gap between what is known and what remains concealed. By the end of this section, the audience is left with a haunting sense that history may have been deliberately layered with riddles, inviting only the most persistent seekers to uncover its truths. The story seamlessly sets up the next section, which will explore the mysterious journeys of those who claim to have found traces of Shambhala, bridging the gap between legend, exploration, and the ongoing quest for discovery. As the legend of Shambhala, or any lost civilization, persists through centuries of oral tradition, ancient manuscripts, and cryptic maps, modern science has taken up the challenge of separating fact from folklore. In this section, the audience is drawn into a compelling contrast, the allure of myth versus the rigor of empirical investigation. Imagine satellite imagery scanning the remotest mountain ranges, revealing anomalies in terrain that could hint at buried structures. Archaeologists meticulously excavate seemingly barren plateaus, occasionally uncovering artifacts that defy conventional timelines. Could these be the remnants of a civilization deliberately erased from history? Scientists often rely on multiple disciplines to approach these mysteries. Geologists study rock formations and glacial movements, theorizing how natural cataclysms, massive floods, landslides, or shifting tectonic plates, may have wiped out entire cities. Climate scientists analyze pollen samples, ice cores, and tree rings, uncovering evidence of sudden environmental changes that coincide with the collapse of ancient societies. In parallel, historians and linguists scrutinize ancient texts, comparing mythic accounts with factual records, trying to detect patterns that suggest a real location behind the legend. Despite rigorous methodologies, science often encounters enigmas it cannot fully explain. For instance, some supposed Shambhala sightings are corroborated by unusual magnetic readings, anomalies in satellite data, or artifacts that contain materials seemingly impossible to date. These moments spark heated debates between scholars. Are they discovering genuine traces of a forgotten civilization, or are these coincidences being misinterpreted by eager imaginations? The section should highlight this tension, using cinematic storytelling to immerse viewers. Visualize a helicopter hovering over a remote Himalayan ridge, revealing a series of symmetrical stone formations partially obscured by clouds. Cut to a lab where researchers analyze fragments of ancient pottery, comparing chemical compositions with distant civilizations. The juxtaposition of high-tech tools and age-old myths underscores the profound contrast between human curiosity and the enduring power of legend. Finally, this section introduces the psychological dimension of mystery. Even when evidence seems inconclusive, humans are drawn to patterns and narratives. This is why Shambhala persists in popular imagination despite scant proof. By balancing scientific inquiry with the allure of myth, this segment keeps viewers on the edge of discovery, questioning, hypothesizing, and wondering if some secrets are meant to remain hidden. It bridges the known and the unknown, creating a suspenseful, thought-provoking passage that primes the audience for the next stage of the narrative. As the veil between history and legend begins to thin, we arrive at the spiritual heart of Shambhala, a city whispered about in ancient texts and hidden prophecies. Here, the boundaries of reality seem to blur, where science struggles to explain, and myth dares to reach beyond comprehension. This section delves into the city's spiritual significance, exploring how it has been envisioned across cultures as both a physical sanctuary and a metaphysical hub, a place where human consciousness intersects with higher truths. The earliest references to Shambhala appear in Tibetan Buddhist manuscripts, describing a kingdom ruled by enlightened beings whose wisdom surpasses worldly knowledge. These texts suggest that Shambhala is not merely a location but a state of consciousness, a hidden realm that guides humanity toward spiritual awakening. Some mystics claim that certain individuals, through meditation and inner discipline, can access the city without ever leaving their physical world, hinting at the thin membrane between the tangible and the transcendent. Prophecies surrounding Shambhala add another layer of intrigue. According to legend, the kingdom will emerge fully into our reality at a pivotal moment in human history, a time of great crisis or transformation. Scholars and spiritual seekers debate whether these prophecies are symbolic, warning humanity of moral decay, or literal, pointing to an actual place waiting to reveal itself. The tension between these interpretations fuels endless speculation. Is Shambhala a map of morality, a guide to enlightenment, or a hidden city veiled by the mountains of the Himalayas? Adding to the mystique are reports of esoteric practices tied to Shambhala. Ancient texts describe meditation techniques, mantra recitations, and sacred rituals believed to attune practitioners to the city's energy. Some claim that these practices can unlock visions of advanced technologies, forgotten knowledge, or even glimpses of the future. Western occult traditions have occasionally referenced Shambhala as well, interpreting it as a source of cosmic wisdom, an intersection where Eastern mysticism and esoteric philosophy converge, and where seekers of truth confront both revelation and paradox. Yet, despite centuries of fascination, tangible evidence remains elusive. Expeditions into the high Himalayas yield tantalizing clues, ruins, inscriptions, and legends passed down by remote monasteries. But science and archaeology have yet to confirm Shambhala's physical existence. This persistent ambiguity raises a fundamental question: is the city real, or is it a mirror of humanity's yearning for transcendence? By juxtaposing historical accounts, spiritual doctrine, and contemporary mystical experiences, this section casts Shambhala as both a literal and symbolic nexus, a place where human curiosity, faith, and imagination intertwine. As we transition to the next section, the audience is left suspended between reality and possibility, confronting the allure of secrets that may exist just beyond perception. Shambhala challenges not only what we know but how we know, asking us to consider the interplay of consciousness, prophecy, and the human desire to seek what is hidden. As we approach the climax of our journey into the lost city, the line between history and legend begins to blur. Shambhala, or the fabled city of untold wisdom, has inspired countless theories, some grounded in historical evidence, others steeped in speculation and imagination. Scholars argue that the city may have existed in the remote highlands of Central Asia, hidden behind treacherous mountain passes, shielded from invaders, and perhaps deliberately erased from official chronicles. Ancient maps and fragmented texts hint at a civilization whose knowledge of astronomy, medicine, and metallurgy may have rivaled, or even surpassed, what we know today. Yet, these claims are tantalizingly incomplete, leaving room for a world of what-ifs. Among the more controversial ideas are secret societies said to have guarded the city's entrance, passing down knowledge only to the worthy. Some researchers suggest that monasteries across Tibet, India, and Mongolia preserve subtle clues, cryptic symbols carved into walls, manuscripts in ancient scripts, and rituals that may encode lost wisdom. Others speculate that Shambhala was not merely a physical city but a spiritual plane, accessible only through meditation, purity, or a mysterious alignment of cosmic events. Could it be that centuries of explorers searched not for a place, but for enlightenment itself? Then there are theories that ignite the imagination and fan the flames of modern conspiracy. Some fringe scholars claim Shambhala held technologies far beyond its time, advanced energy sources, precise astronomical devices, and even methods of healing that defy conventional science. Stories of hidden tunnels, underground chambers, and artifacts disappearing without a trace have fueled claims that powerful rulers deliberately concealed the city from history. Could these secrets be buried beneath modern cities or deep within uncharted mountains, just waiting for discovery? Or are they inventions of storytellers, designed to captivate and mislead? Yet the allure of Shambhala is not just about what may be hidden, it is about the tension between myth and reality. Science examines maps, texts, and carbon-dated artifacts, seeking proof. Mysticism offers visions, prophecies, and esoteric wisdom that cannot be measured. By presenting these theories side by side, we are forced to confront our deepest curiosity: what if history is only half told? What if truth is intentionally cloaked in myth? This section leaves viewers perched on the edge of belief and skepticism. Theories range from the plausible to the fantastical, each more alluring than the last. By balancing credible scholarship with sensational claims, the story of Shambhala becomes a mirror reflecting our desire to uncover hidden truths, to peer behind the curtain of reality, and to question whether some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. As we move to the final section, the lines between fact, fiction, and cosmic possibility will dissolve entirely, leaving only wonder, and an insatiable urge to explore further. As our journey through the veils of history and myth comes to a close, we are left with more questions than answers, yet it is precisely this uncertainty that keeps the story alive. Shambhala, whether a physical city hidden among the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas or a metaphorical realm of enlightenment, continues to straddle the boundary between fact and legend. The accounts of explorers, monks, and scholars over centuries paint tantalizing images: a city of golden spires, vast libraries of esoteric knowledge, and an order of enlightened beings who have quietly shaped the course of humanity from the shadows. Some argue that these stories are nothing more than allegorical tales, crafted to guide spiritual seekers along their inner journeys, while others insist there must be a kernel of truth buried somewhere beneath layers of myth, waiting for discovery. The evidence, however fragmentary, refuses to be ignored. Tibetan texts speak of hidden valleys and sacred mountains, accessible only to those deemed worthy. Maps drawn by early Western explorers hint at regions that remain uncharted, locations dismissed as impossible by conventional geography. Even modern satellite imagery occasionally reveals formations that defy simple explanation, patterns in snow and rock that resemble structures, though whether natural or man-made remains a mystery. In this space between skepticism and wonder, the human imagination thrives, and the allure of the unknown exerts its undeniable pull. It is this tension, between belief and doubt, between documented history and whispered legend, that makes Shambhala so compelling. What truly captivates is not just the possibility of a lost city but the questions it forces us to ask about ourselves. Are we, in our pursuit of empirical certainty, blind to realms that cannot be measured by maps or instruments? Does the endurance of Shambhala in human consciousness reflect a deeper yearning for meaning, for a place where wisdom and harmony are not myths but lived realities? Countless expeditions have failed to find physical proof, yet each journey contributes to a growing tapestry of lore, blending spiritual insight, historical traces, and the sheer audacity of human curiosity. In the process, Shambhala becomes more than a destination, it becomes a mirror, reflecting our hopes, fears, and relentless desire to uncover truths hidden just beyond the veil of perception. Even today, scholars, adventurers, and seekers continue to search, driven by fragments of ancient texts, cryptic symbols, and stories passed down through generations. Whether the city exists as a tangible place, a spiritual metaphor, or a convergence of both, it has already left an indelible mark on human history. Its influence can be traced through philosophy, art, and the countless tales that have survived across continents and centuries. In leaving us with uncertainty, Shambhala challenges the way we define reality, blurring the line between history and myth, the visible and the unseen. Ultimately, the enduring mystery of Shambhala reminds us of something profoundly human, our insatiable curiosity and our capacity to imagine worlds beyond our immediate perception. The city may remain hidden, perhaps forever, but in its secrecy lies its power. It invites each seeker to look beyond the obvious, to question accepted truths, and to consider that some of the greatest discoveries are not found on maps but in the mind and spirit. As we step back from the story, we are left suspended between doubt and belief, wonder and reason, aware that the journey toward understanding is far from over. Shambhala endures, not merely as a place but as a symbol of humanity's quest for hidden knowledge, waiting for those daring enough to search in the spaces where mystery and reality intertwine.